The first thing Eloan Voss noticed about the man across from her was not his worn shirt, the faint grease beneath his fingernails, or the small crack running through the screen of his old phone. It was the way he folded the paper napkin into a tiny bird while he waited, then placed it carefully beside an untouched glass of water as if it were meant for someone who had not arrived yet. For 3 years, Eloan had walked into blind dates wearing discount store dresses, carrying an empty-looking purse, and pretending she was barely surviving. Men who had praised her photographs became impatient when she ordered the cheapest meal. Some suddenly remembered meetings. Others suggested she should be grateful they had shown up at all. But the man sitting across from her that bright afternoon did something no one else had done. Before asking what she did for a living, he looked at her tired eyes and quietly wondered whether she had eaten that day. Before we continue, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Eco-verse if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when someone chooses to see the heart instead of the bank account. Eloan was 36 years old and the chief executive officer of Voss Meridian, one of the fastest-growing renewable construction companies in the country. Her name appeared on magazine covers, business journals, and lists of the wealthiest self-made women under 40. She lived in a glass-walled penthouse above the city, owned cars she rarely drove, and could enter a room of powerful investors without lowering her gaze. Yet when the workday ended and the assistants went home, the silence around her felt larger than the skyline outside her windows. Success had made her visible to millions, but it had also made it nearly impossible to know who was looking at her and who was only staring at what she owned. The deception had begun after an engagement that left her ashamed of her own trust. Her former fiancé, a polished venture capitalist named Corbin, had spoken of devotion while quietly arranging access to company accounts and pressuring her to merge assets before the wedding. When Eloan uncovered the truth, he did not apologize. He blamed her for being suspicious, called love a partnership of opportunities, and told her no successful man would tolerate being tested. She ended the engagement, but his words stayed behind. After that, every introduction became an experiment. Eloan removed the expensive jewelry, borrowed an older compact car from a longtime employee, and introduced herself as a temporary office clerk struggling to find stable work. She told herself she was protecting her heart. In truth, she was slowly teaching herself to expect disappointment. The man at the cafe was named Tavian Mercer. He was 39, worked as a maintenance technician at a public school, and was raising his 8-year-old daughter, Orla, alone. The blind date had been arranged by Eloan's executive assistant, who knew nothing about the tests and believed Tavian might be kind enough to interest a woman who had forgotten how to rest. He arrived 10 minutes early because he disliked making people wait. He selected the cafe because it was affordable, bright, and near a public park where he had promised to meet his daughter afterward. When Eloan apologized for ordering only soup and explained that money was tight, Tavian did not offer sympathy that felt like pity. He simply ordered soup too, saying expensive food often made people pretend to enjoy themselves. Eloan watched him carefully, searching for the familiar signs. The glance at her shoes. The hesitation after hearing she had no permanent job. The subtle loss of interest. None came. Instead, Tavian spoke about fixing broken heating pipes before winter, helping children retrieve toys from rooftops, and learning to braid hair by watching videos before sunrise. He did not romanticize hardship. He admitted that single fatherhood exhausted him, that overdue bills sometimes kept him awake, and that there were evenings when he ate toast so Orla could have a full dinner without knowing money was short. Yet he spoke without bitterness. His life was difficult, but hardship had not made him cruel. When the meal ended, Eloan reached into her purse and pretended to discover that she had left her wallet at home. It was the final part of the test, the moment when previous dates had become irritated or insulting. Tavian only smiled, paid the modest bill, and told her she could cover coffee another time. Then, as they stepped into the daylight, his phone rang. His expression changed immediately. Orla's after-school caregiver had been delayed, leaving the girl waiting near the park office. Tavian apologized and hurried away, but after a few steps, he turned back and invited Eloan to walk with him if she had nowhere urgent to be. She nearly refused. Following a first date to meet a child felt too intimate, too real. But something in Tavian's concern had unsettled the careful distance she maintained around everyone. She walked beside him through busy sidewalks warmed by afternoon sun. Tavian did not try to impress her. He stopped to help an elderly man lift a grocery cart over a curb and picked up a fallen scarf before its owner noticed. Each gesture appeared instinctive, done without checking whether Eloan was watching. They found Orla sitting on a bench with a purple backpack against her knees. She had Tavian's dark eyes, a serious expression, and a hearing aid tucked behind her right ear. When she saw her father, relief crossed her face before she tried to hide it. Tavian crouched and apologized for being late even though the delay had not been his fault. Orla noticed the folded napkin bird in his hand, the one he had made at the cafe, and her guarded expression softened. Eloan understood then that he had been making it for his daughter. Orla studied Eloan with cautious curiosity. She had grown used to women appearing briefly in her father's life and vanishing once they understood how complicated it was. Her hearing loss had resulted from a severe infection when she was 4, the same year her mother died after a sudden illness. Tavian had spent years rebuilding a world that collapsed in a matter of months. He learned sign-supported communication, attended every therapy session, and accepted work beneath his abilities because the school schedule allowed him to be present for Orla. The three of them walked through the park. Sunlight filtered through green branches, children chased pigeons across the grass, and a street musician played a slow melody near the fountain. Eloan had planned to remain only a few minutes, but Orla asked through careful speech whether she could have lemonade. Tavian counted the cash in his wallet before agreeing. Eloan saw the quiet calculation and felt shame move through her. The man she had tested without mercy was measuring coins to give his daughter a small joy.at. The lemonade stand, the card reader failed, and the vendor became impatient with the growing line. Tavian's remaining cash was not enough for 3 drinks, so he bought one for Orla and said he was not thirsty. Eloan was carrying enough money to purchase the stand itself, yet she continued playing the role she had created. When Orla offered her father the first sip, Tavian pretended it was the best lemonade he had ever tasted. Eloan turned away, disturbed by an emotion she had not allowed herself to feel in years. It was not romantic excitement. It was the painful recognition of goodness. Over the following weeks, Tavian called her without games or rehearsed charm. Their second meeting was at a free outdoor art exhibit. Their third was a picnic where he packed homemade sandwiches and Orla brought colored pencils. Eloan kept pretending to be broke, though every new lie became heavier. She said she rented a small room, though she owned multiple properties. She claimed her phone was unreliable, though a new flagship device stayed hidden in her office drawer. She invented worries about rent while approving budgets worth millions. Tavian never tried to rescue her in ways that would create debt or obligation. He helped her search job listings, repaired the loose heel of her inexpensive shoe with glue from his toolbox, and introduced her to the school's administrative manager when a clerical position opened. He respected her imagined struggle rather than treating her as fragile. The more compassion he showed, the more trapped Eloan became inside her own protection point. One afternoon, she visited Tavian's small apartment for Orla's school project. The place was clean but modest, with repaired furniture and family photographs arranged along a narrow hallway. On the refrigerator hung overdue notices beside drawings of houses covered in solar panels. Orla explained that her father wanted to finish an engineering degree someday and design buildings that wasted less energy. Eloan stood frozen. Tavian had once studied mechanical engineering but left college after Orla's mother became ill. He never returned because survival demanded immediate work. As the afternoon light filled the kitchen, Tavian showed Eloan a model he and Orla had built from cardboard, bottle caps, and foil. It was a miniature school powered by sunlight, designed so children in poor neighborhoods could study without buildings becoming unbearably hot. The concept was simple but thoughtful. Eloan recognized several ideas her own company had spent millions developing. Tavian possessed the mind of an engineer, yet life had placed a mop, a wrench, and a ring of school keys in his hands. For the first time, Eloan considered telling him everything. She imagined explaining the fear, the betrayal, and the reason behind the disguise. But then Tavian said something that stopped her. He told her he admired the way she kept trying despite having so little. He said honesty mattered more to him than status because Orla had already experienced enough people making promises they did not keep. Eloan felt the word strike the most guarded part of her heart. The truth came out not through courage, but accident. Voss Meridian had recently agreed to fund energy upgrades in several public schools. Eloan planned to avoid Tavian's campus during the official inspection, but an emergency board meeting changed the schedule. She arrived in a black company vehicle wearing a tailored suit, surrounded by executives and local reporters. Tavian was repairing a broken gate near the entrance when the convoy stopped. He looked up, saw Eloan step out, and went completely still. For a moment, neither moved. Reporters called her name. The school principal rushed forward to welcome the famous CEO. Tavian's face changed as every small inconsistency assembled into a single devastating truth. The woman who had claimed to fear eviction was being thanked for a multimillion-dollar investment. The woman whose shoe he had repaired owned a company that designed towers. The woman he had trusted had observed his life while hiding her own. Eloan tried to reach him, but Tavian stepped back. He did not raise his voice or create a scene. His disappointment was quieter and more painful. He returned the small apartment key she had been given for emergencies and walked away before the cameras could capture his expression. That evening, Eloan sat alone in her penthouse while the city glittered beneath her. For years, she had believed money was the wall separating her from genuine love. Now she understood that fear had become the wall. Tavian had not failed her test. She had failed his trust. She wrote messages, deleted them, and finally drove to his apartment without assistance or security. Tavian opened the door but did not invite her inside. Orla stood behind him, confused and hurt. Eloan apologized without defending herself. She admitted that she had turned people into suspects because one man had betrayed her. She confessed that every kind thing Tavian had done made her want to tell the truth, but also made losing him more frightening. Tavian listened, yet pain remained in his eyes. That he told her poverty was not a costume. It was the reason he calculated grocery prices, delayed dental appointments, and feared every unexpected bill. By pretending to live that life, Eloan had treated his reality as an experiment. She had not meant to insult him, but intention could not erase impact. Eloan left with no promise of forgiveness. In the days that followed, she did not send gifts. She did not offer Tavian money or a prestigious job. She knew those gestures would only prove that she still believed wealth could repair what dishonesty had broken. Instead, she changed herself where no one could applaud. She ended the secret blind date tests. She began therapy to confront the betrayal she had allowed to shape every relationship. She told her board that the school upgrade project would include a paid community design panel so maintenance workers, teachers, parents, and students could contribute ideas. Tavian was invited through the school, not through Eloan. He almost declined, but Orla insisted that his model could help other children. During the first panel session, he entered a conference room and found Eloan seated among everyone else, without cameras or special treatment. She did not pressure him to speak to her. She listened as he described affordable cooling systems, reusable rainwater designs, and maintenance access points architects often forgot. His ideas were practical because they came from years of fixing what designers never had to touch. Over several months, trust returned slowly. Eloan attended community meetings in daylight, carried folding chairs, took notes, and accepted criticism without hiding behind her title. Tavian watched her become more honest, not only with him but with herself. Orla remained cautious until the day Eloan arrived at the school fair and sat through a long student presentation without checking her phone once. Afterward, Orla handed her a paper bird made from a napkin and said it was for people who learned how to come back. The project became a success. Tavian's contributions led Voss Meridian to offer him a scholarship and flexible internship through an open application process reviewed by an independent committee. he accepted only after confirming that he had earned it. 2 years later, he completed his engineering degree while continuing to raise Orla. His first major design was a low-cost energy system for public schools, inspired by the cardboard model on his kitchen table. Eloan and Tavian did not fall into a perfect romance overnight. They argued, rebuilt boundaries, and learned that love after betrayal required patience. There were moments when Tavian feared becoming dependent on her world, and moments when Eloan felt the old instinct to test what should simply be trusted. But they spoke the truth, especially when it was uncomfortable. Eloan learned that being loved did not require becoming smaller or poorer. Tavian learned that wealth did not automatically erase tenderness. What mattered was whether power was used to control or to serve. One bright afternoon, nearly 3 years after their first date, they returned to the same cafe. Tavian wore a clean blue shirt, though grease still marked one fingernail from helping repair Orla's bicycle. Eloan wore no disguise. She entered as herself, not the CEO on magazine covers and not the struggling clerk she had invented, but a woman still learning how to trust. Tavian folded a paper napkin into a bird and placed it between them. Then Orla, now 11 and more confident in both speech and signing, joined them carrying 3 lemonades. This time, no one counted coins in secret. Yet Eloan remembered the day Tavian had bought only 1 drink and claimed he was not thirsty. It remained one of the clearest measures of his heart. Near the end of the afternoon, Tavian asked Eloan to walk with him into the park. Beneath the same trees where they had first met Orla, he gave her a simple ring. There was no crowd, no press announcement, and no attempt to impress the world. He told her he was not choosing the woman who had pretended to be broke or the powerful executive everyone recognized. He was choosing the woman who had finally become brave enough to be known. Eloan cried before she answered. Orla wrapped both arms around them, and the folded paper bird slipped from her hand, lifting briefly in the warm breeze before landing in the grass. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to love is not greed, status, or hardship. Sometimes it is the fear that the truth about us will not be enough. Eloan spent years hiding her wealth to discover whether someone could love her without it. Tavian taught her a deeper lesson. Real love does not begin when we remove everything impressive. It begins when we stop hiding everything real. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ecoverse. Your support helps more stories of kindness, healing, and second chances reach the people who may need them most. Special request: comment love sees the truth if you believe the right person will value your heart more than your money, status, or past mistakes. And years later, whenever Eloan was asked how she finally found someone she could trust, she never mentioned the disguises, the company, or the test. She simply spoke of a sunny afternoon, a single father with tired eyes, and a paper bird made for a little girl. Because the man who had almost nothing to spare had offered kindness without hesitation, and in doing so, he taught a woman who owned nearly everything that honesty was the one gift no fortune could replace.